She told police her husband abandoned her in the middle of the night and vanished without a trace. For 22 years, she cried on camera, begged for answers, and convinced everyone she was the victim. Until one day, her own daughter tore apart the family home and uncovered something buried where no one ever thought to look. Before we begin, subscribe now, because this case proves sometimes the person searching for the truth is the one hiding it. On October 14, 1998, in the quiet suburban town of Cedar Falls, Iowa, 34-year-old Daniel Whitmore vanished without warning. Daniel was known as dependable. He worked as a mechanical technician, rarely missed a day, and spent most evenings at home with his wife, Lauren Whitmore, and their 6-year-old daughter, Emily. But that Wednesday morning, Daniel never showed up for work. His co-workers called his home. Lauren answered, her voice trembling. She told them Daniel had left the house late the night before after an argument. She claimed he grabbed his keys, said he needed air, and walked out the front door around 11:30 p.m. She said she never saw him again. At first, it seemed like a domestic dispute gone too far. Police searched nearby streets, parks, and local businesses. Daniel's car, however, was still parked in the driveway. His wallet was inside. His phone sat charging beside the bed. There was no sign he planned to leave. No packed bags. No withdrawals from his bank account. Nothing. It was as if Daniel Whitmore had simply stepped outside and vanished into thin air forever. Within days, Lauren Whitmore became the face of Daniel's disappearance. She stood outside the Cedar Falls Police Department, clutching tissues, mascara streaking down her cheeks as local news cameras rolled. She pleaded for Daniel to come home. She said Emily cried herself to sleep each night asking where her father was. "I just want my husband back," she told reporters. "If anyone knows anything, please, please help us." The town rallied behind her. Volunteers organized search parties along wooded trails near the Cedar River. Flyers with Daniel's photo covered grocery store windows, gas stations, and church bulletin boards. Candlelight vigils lit up their quiet street. But behind closed doors, detectives noticed small inconsistencies. Lauren changed details about the argument that night. At first, she said it was about finances. Later, she claimed it was about Daniel working too much. Then she suggested he had been distant for months. Neighbors reported something else. No one remembered hearing shouting. No slammed doors. No car leaving at 11:30 p.m. And one more detail bothered investigators. Lauren had washed the bedsheets the very next morning, before calling police. Detectives searched the Whitmore home thoroughly, expecting to find signs of struggle. They found none. No broken furniture. No blood. No overturned objects. Everything appeared perfectly normal. Almost too normal. Daniel's car remained untouched in the driveway. Forensic teams dusted it for fingerprints, hoping to find evidence he had left voluntarily or that someone else had driven it. Only 2 sets appeared. Daniel's. Lauren's. Nothing else. His phone records revealed something even stranger. His phone had never left the house that night. There were no outgoing calls. No messages. No activity after 10:52 p.m. If Daniel had walked out at 11:30, why would he leave his phone behind? When detectives asked Lauren, she claimed he must have forgotten it in his anger. But Daniel was known to be meticulous. He never went anywhere without his phone or wallet. Both remained inside. Investigators quietly shifted their focus. Not outward, but inward. Still, without physical evidence, they had nothing to prove foul play. No body. No weapon. No witnesses. Just questions. And Lauren Whitmore, who continued to cry on camera, convincing everyone she was a wife waiting for her husband to come home. 6-year-old Emily Whitmore barely spoke during the investigation. She sat quietly beside her mother during police interviews, clutching a stuffed rabbit, her wide eyes observing everything. At first, detectives assumed she had slept through the argument. But weeks later, during a routine visit with a child counselor, Emily said something that changed everything. She spoke softly, almost in a whisper. "Mommy was mad," she said. The counselor gently asked what she meant. Emily hesitated, then said, "I heard a loud bang." The counselor froze. She asked Emily what happened next. Emily stared at the floor. "Daddy fell down." When detectives questioned Lauren about this, her reaction was immediate. She insisted Emily must have had a nightmare. She said children often confuse dreams with reality, especially during stressful times. Without physical evidence, Emily's words weren't enough. Still, detectives documented everything carefully. But as months passed, leads dried up. Search efforts stopped. Tips disappeared. And eventually, the case went cold. Lauren Whitmore moved on with her life. She stayed in the same house, the same bedroom, the same backyard, where, unknown to everyone, Daniel Whitmore had never truly left. Time slowly erased Daniel Whitmore from Cedar Falls. His missing person flyers faded in the sun. His case file gathered dust inside police archives. New detectives replaced old ones, and eventually, Daniel became just another unsolved disappearance. But inside the Whitmore home, life continued. Lauren raised Emily alone. She worked at a dental office, attended church regularly, and remained an active member of the community. People admired her strength. They saw her as a woman who endured unimaginable loss and survived. Emily grew up believing her father had abandoned them. Lauren never spoke of him. She removed his photos. She avoided his name. And whenever Emily asked questions, Lauren would quietly cry. By the time Emily turned 28, she had inherited the house after Lauren suffered a sudden stroke and passed away. Returning to the home as its new owner felt strange. Every room held memories she couldn't fully understand. She decided to renovate, not to erase the past, but to finally confront it. She started in the backyard, near the old concrete patio, a place she hadn't thought about in decades, a place where, without realizing it, she was standing directly above the truth. On a cold morning in March 2020, Emily Whitmore stood alone in her backyard, watching contractors break apart the aging concrete patio. The slab had cracked over the years, and she wanted to replace it with fresh stone. At first, it was just another renovation project. Nothing unusual. Until the shovel hit something that wasn't concrete. It made a hollow, sickening sound. One of the workers paused. He knelt down and brushed away the dirt. At first, he thought it was a rock. Then he saw the curve. Smooth, pale, unmistakable. He staggered backward. "Call the police," he said. Emily stared, her heart pounding, as officers arrived and carefully excavated the area. Within hours, the truth began to surface. A human skull, buried less than 2 feet beneath the patio, wrapped in what remained of decayed plastic. Emily couldn't breathe. Her hands trembled. She already knew. Before the tests, before the confirmation, she knew exactly who it was. Her father had never walked away. He had been there all along, buried beneath her childhood home, waiting silently. For 22 years. The Cedar Falls Police Department immediately reopened Daniel Whitmore's case. Forensic teams sealed off the backyard and began a careful excavation. As they dug deeper, more remains emerged: bones, fragments of clothing, and a rusted metal object buried alongside him. Detectives called Emily to confirm what they suspected. Dental records matched perfectly. After 22 years, Daniel Whitmore had finally been found. But the biggest question remained. Who put him there? Investigators re-examined the original case file with fresh eyes. They reviewed Lauren Whitmore's statements, the timeline, and the inconsistencies that once seemed minor. Now, everything felt different. More deliberate. More calculated. Forensic analysis revealed fractures on Daniel's skull consistent with blunt force trauma. This was not an accident. This was homicide. They also discovered something chilling. The concrete patio had been poured just 3 days after Daniel disappeared. Records showed Lauren hired a local contractor and paid in cash. At the time, no one thought twice about it. Now, it became the most damning clue of all. Lauren Whitmore hadn't buried her husband somewhere far away. She buried him where she could watch over him every day. Detectives began reconstructing Lauren Whitmore's life in the days following Daniel's disappearance. What they found was disturbing. 3 days after reporting him missing, Lauren had urgently arranged for the patio installation. The contractor later told investigators she insisted the job be done immediately. She refused delays. She refused assistance. And she paid entirely in cash. At the time, it seemed like a grieving wife trying to stay busy. Now, it looked like something else. A cover. Financial records revealed another secret. Lauren had taken out a life insurance policy on Daniel just 6 months before he vanished. Worth $450,000. She collected the full payout 2 years later, after Daniel was declared legally dead. Friends also revealed cracks in their marriage. Daniel had been planning to leave. He had confided in a coworker that he intended to file for divorce and seek custody of Emily. Lauren never mentioned that to anyone. Detectives realized Lauren had controlled the narrative from the beginning. She cried on camera. She begged for help. She convinced the world she was a victim. And for 22 years, everyone believed her. Everyone except one person. A 6-year-old girl who heard the truth that night. With Lauren Whitmore now dead, prosecutors could never charge her. But investigators were determined to uncover exactly what happened that night in October 1998. Forensic experts analyzed Daniel's injuries carefully. The skull fractures revealed repeated blows, likely from a heavy household object. The rusted metal found beside his remains was identified as an old pipe wrench, one that matched a missing tool from Daniel's garage. It painted a horrifying picture. Daniel never left the house. He never walked away. He never abandoned his family. He was killed inside his own home. Detectives believe the argument turned violent when Daniel told Lauren he was leaving her. He planned to take Emily and start over somewhere else. Lauren couldn't accept that. In a moment of rage or desperation, she struck him. Once. Then again. Until he stopped moving. She buried him beneath the patio. Then she told the world he abandoned them. And she lived freely for 22 years. But the most haunting truth wasn't the crime itself. It was that Lauren Whitmore had spent every single day of her life walking above the man she killed. As investigators finalized their report, Emily Whitmore struggled to accept the truth. Her mother, the woman who raised her, protected her, comforted her, was also the person who had taken her father's life. But one final discovery made the case even more chilling. While sorting through Lauren's personal belongings, Emily found an old locked wooden box hidden in the back of her mother's closet. Inside were newspaper clippings. Every article about Daniel's disappearance. Every search effort. Every anniversary. Lauren had saved them all. But at the very bottom was something else. A handwritten letter. It was never mailed. It was addressed to Emily. With shaking hands, Emily read the final words her mother ever wrote. "I did it because I was afraid of losing you." Lauren confessed she believed Daniel would take Emily away forever. She wrote that she never meant to go that far. That she panicked. That she buried him to protect the only thing she loved. And for 22 years, she lived with the secret. not as the grieving wife, but as the only witness to her own crime. If this story disturbed you, it should, because for 22 years, the truth wasn't hidden in some distant forest, it was buried in plain sight. Beneath footsteps, beneath memories, beneath a lie that everyone believed. And the most terrifying part is this. If Emily had never broken that concrete, Daniel Whitmore's secret might have stayed buried forever. So I want to ask you something. Do you think Lauren truly felt remorse, or was she only sorry she might be discovered? Tell me what you believe in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more true crime stories that expose secrets people thought would never be uncovered, subscribe now. Because on this channel, we don't just tell stories. We uncover the truth. Click the next video on your screen. Because the case waiting there is even more disturbing than this one. And once you hear it, you won't forget it.